Hello, welcome back. I'm Tommy, and I help people step into their power and find their passion by eliminating self-defeating behaviors and thinking. So it's Saturday night here in the big city of Toronto, and it's dark out, and I don't have a lot of light for this recording, so I'm going to be quick, but I wanted to send a message to you because it's something that's been on my mind today. And this is the concept, the situation that I have found myself in for a lot of my life. And I'm guessing that some of you have either been told that you're a control freak or you can identify as being one. Usually we don't really identify with it until it's pointed out to us. At least that was my experience. But I've done a lot of research into why people try to control things. And again, most of my research can come back to myself because I've gone through a lot of these self-explorations in my life, and trying to control people and situations has been an issue for me, and it's never served me well. Let's put it that way. And we learn over the years that the reason why it doesn't serve one well is because we actually can't do it. So in 12-step recovery, we talk about the step 2 being, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And I never really caught on to that one early on because I thought, well, I'm not insane, so I don't need to be restored to sanity. Until I was reminded that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Now that definitively applies to addictive behaviors. That makes very good sense. But in terms of trying to control people and outcomes, I didn't see the insanity in that. I didn't even see the repetitive behavior in that for quite some time, because with control, there's all kinds of different things you could be trying to control, not just one thing. So sometimes it takes a little bit to really identify that that is the challenge. You may know you have challenges in life, but you haven't stopped to fully identify that the challenge itself is that you're trying to control the outcome of things and it's not succeeding, so you end up disappointed, depressed, feeling defeated, angry at other people, mad at the circumstances or the institutions or whomever it was that you were trying to ensure that the outcome was a way that you envisioned it to be. But you don't fully understand that it's because you're not letting things go and letting the flow of energy and of the universe and of circumstances to work themselves out. And that the way to a calm and contented life is to not be attached to outcomes. We take the first steps, we do the very best we can, we intend things, but when we try and hold on to the final outcome before it has manifested, this is when we can get stuck. The universe might decide that there's a different way than you think to find patience, or there's a different way to feel abundant, or a different way to be loving towards a family member. If you have very specific ideas about what that looks like beyond the general concept that that's your desire, this is where we can get tripped up, because there are many paths to a particular outcome, and they're not always exact to our specifications. And that's usually to our benefit. I'm sure you can also think of circumstances where you thought you wanted something to turn out a particular way. And when it didn't, you actually were able to say, just as well, that didn't turn out the way that I had anticipated or thought that I wanted things to turn out. actually the way they turned out was better or to my benefit or to the benefit of others. And this is when we realize that trying to push against something that is trying to manifest in a different way doesn't work in terms of allowing us to feel content and peaceful. So I've gone back in my life, as I tend to do, to try and identify how and when this need or desire to try and control outcomes first came to light, or why I developed this habit. And I can easily see, and again, therapists and psychologists, this is probably like 101 for them, but as just someone interested in my own journey at the time of my exploration, I had to go back to when I was a kid, and I was looking at it again today as I end up doing the same sort of behaviors in different circumstances sometimes. And when you have dysfunction in the family, and especially, I use my own experiences because those are the ones that I know for certain about, and they typically apply to a lot of people's circumstances. So dysfunction in the home, in my case, mostly fueled by alcoholism. So there were two things that I functioned on pretty much on a daily basis as a kid. And that was fear of what an evening would look like in my home, the arguing, the fighting, that type of stuff. Fear that my dad would not come home because he would have died in a car accident, because he always drank and drove and was clearly in a blackout state of inebriation pretty much every day that I can recall when he came home from work. And so fear of him not coming home, fear if he came home or when he came home, what the outcome might be that evening in terms of disruption in our home and arguing between my parents. And fear of my own self losing my life because I often ended up driving in a vehicle with him while he was inebriated, and concerned that I was going to die because of his erratic driving behavior and the fact that he was drunk. So a lot of fear, and I'm sure that turned into a lot of trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder, lots of stuff right there. But the other feeling that I had that I believe led to the control, fear is one thing. You try and control things because you're fearful of the outcome, for sure. But the other part that I think has been more relevant and prevalent in my adult life was that feeling of helplessness. The feeling that I truly didn't have any ability to change the circumstances. I didn't even have the ability to speak up for myself, or, for example, I didn't have a choice to not get in the car, at least not one that I knew of, if I needed to get somewhere, or we were going to our family cottage for the weekend and we had to drive there. So that idea that I really didn't have any choices either, a really helpless feeling. Or when an argument ensued in the home, you didn't have any ability to stop that. So because that was such an ingrained experience that I had as a kid, I didn't want to feel helpless as an adult. And if I saw circumstances or people behaving in such a way that I didn't like, or I wasn't comfortable, or most of the time I was just projecting what I was concerned might be the outcome. And for me, probably oftentimes until I learned to retrain my brain into realizing that positive outcomes were possible in my adult life, separate from the trauma that I lived as a kid, and that I did have at least control of my general living circumstances and who I surrounded myself with as an adult, and what my boundaries were, and who I was willing to spend time with or not spend time with. I mean, I had a lot of options as an adult, very unlike when I was a kid. But that ingrained subconscious behavior of wanting to control out of fear of a negative outcome was something that I just fell into as an adult without really understanding it. But then getting so frustrated that most of the time it didn't work. Or you could maybe manipulate and convince and, you know, sell somebody on an idea or a process or something in the moment. But in the end, that person, let's say, ends up being resentful towards you because they feel that they were pushed to make a decision or take an action, that I pushed my will onto someone else when it really wasn't their will. And therefore, in the end, that person's not happy, which ends up leaving you also stuck and unhappy. So this let go and let God has been a huge learning experience for me as an adult. And what it took for me was a lot of faith. I had to learn to develop faith that this thing called God or higher power or source greater than me was more capable of allowing an outcome to flow in a direction that would be best for me and for other people, and to trust that that was a thing that could happen and that I could put my faith and trust in it, was a very difficult journey for me to go on. But even today I was thinking, even about my dad. I mean, yes, it was a terrible way to grow up on many levels. But at the age I am today, with both my parents passed away now, and my dad ending up sober for the last 30 years of his life, none of the things that I did worry about actually happened. So there was something watching over me or taking care of some of those circumstances to somehow keep me safe or to keep him safe. I did a lot of praying when I was a kid, but I didn't actually believe my prayers were being answered. But perhaps, in fact, they were. Nobody died. My dad got sober. I had a pretty decent relationship with him for 30 years. I've had, overall, a great life. And I was just with a friend, my best friend from grade school tonight, having dinner, and we just always have such great visits. And, we were concluding and confirming that things did turn out pretty well for us, all things considered, both having come from pretty dysfunctional homes when we were kids, and that we had lots to be grateful for. And every time I let go and let God, let go and let God, what you end up with is a sense of peace, and that it's not my job to control outcomes of anything except the way in which I act and react and how I behave and the thoughts I choose to think. Or if I'm going over there to an old negative, worn out thinking pattern, I have a choice to make a different thought more prevalent than the old one. And this is the joy of our brain, the ability for it to create new beliefs for us, and our ability to change the way we think, and hence the way we feel, and hence the way things manifest in our life. We have those abilities for ourselves, not for others, but for ourselves. So that's what I wanted to say. I hope that you got some value out of that, especially if you are somebody who does try to hold on and to control things, or if you know people who do, maybe it gives you a better understanding of potentially why they might. If it's you, I suggest that you do everything you can to learn how to let go of final outcomes and just take the next best step one day at a time, and let everything else go and trust that the universe has got the backs of other people who are maybe needing some guidance or are making decisions or choices that wouldn't necessarily be yours, but it doesn't mean that they're not the right ones for them in the moment and at the time. And that we have better lives when we let go and let God and let go of control. So, thank you for being here. You can click the heart to subscribe to the channel. That would be terrific. And please share my videos if you get some value out of them. And in the description, you can find a link to my appointment calendar if you want to do a discovery call with me to see about one-on-one coaching, and we can find out if we might be a good fit. I'll be launching my app in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for more details on that. There's going to be so much material there within the app for you to be able to access. I'm really excited about that. And you can follow Pure Power Coaching on our Facebook group page. Come and join us there, or on Instagram. And thanks for being here, and I'll see you again.